Okay, so here are all the components necessary to build the 10-watt endurance laser. You're going to have an aluminum housing, DC to DC converter, the MO1 board, a double throw switch. We got some DC barrel jacks, a Zener diode. We have 5 fans, the 3D printed housing, and the actual laser diode itself right here. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to install the heat-sinked laser diode into the aluminum housing. And the way that we'll do that is we'll take it and we'll look at it like this. We'll have the flat side without any big circular cutouts on this side, facing like this. Flip it around, and we're going to run the wires through like such. And we're going to keep it parallel like this. So the laser heatsink is running lengthways like such, all the way around. Next, we're going to take 4 M3 by 16 millimeter screws, and those are going to go into these holes here. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the barrel jack, which is going to be on the right side if you're looking at it like this. That hole there. And this is quite simple. You just take off the nut, and then you're just going to slide it through like such. Screw on this nut. And you can take a pair of pliers to really just tighten it down. Okay, and there's that all set up. Next, you're going to prep the fans by sliding through 3 of them, all but the top one. Okay, and the screws that I'm going to use for the fans are going to be M3 by 12 millimeter. So you just slide them into the hole like such, and then you'll just tighten it into the 2 corners. So when you're tightening down these screws, you don't want to tighten one all the way. You want to make sure you put one in almost all the way done, and then so you can get the other screw in, because you're going to have to do a little bit of shimming. But here you can see that the 3 side fans are installed. And then here are my laser wires. So on the left side of the laser, which is right here, you see this hole right here, I'm just going to go ahead and run my laser wires through that, just to get them out of the way. Okay, there's that. So these are all of the fan wires, and these are all going to need to be connected to the barrel jack, along with the extra 4th one that gets placed up like such. So I'm going to go ahead and solder all of the red wires, which are the positives, to all the fans to that center pin. And so I'll have a center positive DC barrel jack at 12 volts. So with the 4th top fan, I'm just going to cut it, the wire down about halfway, just so I have enough room that I can take off this fan and get in there if I need to work on it. So I'm going to cut it so it's about that long, so it's about 4 or 5 inches. And I'm going to do the same thing to all these. I'm going to cut them so they're about the same length, about 4 inches or so. Okay, so I have all of the wires tinned, and just to help keep all the reds together, I'm going to go ahead and add a piece of heat shrink tubing to the bundle of red, and that will just help keep them all together so I can solder them all together like such and solder them to the actual DC probe, or DC jack. Okay, I don't know if you can see it that well, but I have them all soldered onto that probe right there. It's not the cleanest solder joint, but it will work. So next I'm just going to slide that heat shrink tubing over top of it. And as you can see now, the heat shrink is over that, and you can't even see where the soldering was. Okay, so I just came to the realization that it does not work. because this one is not actually connected to the outside, the far one, so I actually do it to the middle one. And I also just realized that I can do this a lot easier by unscrewing this barrel jack and just pulling it all out, which I don't know why I didn't think of that before. But so I'm just gonna go ahead and desolder all this, solder that all into here, get everything heat shrinked up, and test it and make sure everything works again. Okay, so I have all of the fans wired up correctly to the barrel jack. I'm now going to install the last fan, once again with the two M3 by 12 screws. Okay, that is the entire laser diode assembly completed. These are the two wires that are for the actual laser diode. And you can see that barrel jack with this be for the fans. And you can see everything is all nice and completed. These screw holes back here are for attaching it to whatever you want to do. So I'm just going to add a couple screws just so I have screws later on when I go to attach it to my CNC. The next thing we are going to do is we're going to assemble everything for this box. So the first thing we'll do is we'll take the lid and we will install the fan. Same way. And let me just quickly show, I did modify all of my fans. I just I pushed the wire back through here, added a little bit of hot glue so there was a little bit of strain relief, and I made it so they all are able to stay within, so I don't have to have any fancy stuff done. I can just have it all done like that. And the fan will just attach like such. I'm going to go ahead and use the same 12mm screws, and this should just thread right into that plastic. You will have to put a little bit more force and twist a little bit harder to get it through that plastic, but it should thread right into that plastic because the PLA is soft enough against these stainless steel screws. Okay, so there is that. Next, we're going to go ahead and just press in our switch. That's just going to go in like that. See all of the stuff over here. Here, this is the actual box that will hold the DC to DC converter. This is the MO1 board. You have the other barrel jack, which this is the a little bit bigger one. And that's actually going to be attached into this big hole here. So go ahead and just press that in. Add the split washer. And then we'll take the small little nut, thread it over, tighten it, then push down with your finger here, and just tighten it up. And that is the barrel jack. This is where we will have the wires from the laser. The laser diode wires will go through in this hole, and then through this hole is where you'll have the TTL wires. And so you do get quite a few extra wires in the kit. So the long, thick ones, the thicker ones, those are going to be the ones that will attach to the laser diode. And then I believe you get, yep, right here. These are some thinner, smaller ones that are a little bit shorter. And those will be for TTL, but I'll probably end up using a little bit different wire so I can run it from this box all the way to my control board, or I might do it the other way around. I'll have the control board mounted next to my ramps board, which will have shorter wires for TTL, and I'll have longer ones for the lasers. So I'm not too sure how I'm going to do that, but I'll go ahead and still solder in wires through here, and I'll just leave them short because I can just solder new wires on, or take some Molex connectors or some sort of connector and connect them together. So I'm going to quickly go over all the wiring. So we have the 3 spots here. The far right one corresponds to 1, and then 2 corresponds to the far left, and the middle. So the middle one is going to go straight to the black wire from the laser. This far right one, which is position 1, is going to be on the ground output of the DC to DC converter, which is right here. And then position 2, which is right here, is the laser ground of the MO1 board. So which I'll go ahead and show that. So this is the MO1 board. As you can see, there's some resistors. There's a optocoupler, I believe it was. And this is a MOSFET. Yep, optocoupler. So I have both of the schematics here laid out. So as you can see, you have resistors and such. So what we need to do is connect different wires. So the end of this resistor here has a pad on the back right here. That is going to get the ground from the power supply, which is on the barrel jack right there. And then we are, sorry, not ground, this is going to get the voltage source, so that's going to be 12 volts. This pin right here, which is going to follow, you can solder on right here, is going to get ground of the source, so that's going to be once again from the barrel jack. This pin right here, the middle of the MOSFET, which you can solder on right back here, is going to go to switch position 2, which is the far left right here. And then down here is where the TTL is in. So the right here on this pin of the optocoupler, which is going to be this solder pad right here, gets the red or the black cable for TTL, which is the ground, and then all the way over here, this pad here or here is going to get the ground connection or the voltage connection of the TTL. So I'm going to quickly go over the DC to DC converter. We will have to make sure we set the voltage for this to 5.1 volts, and then that's about it. So we have this is the in voltage and this is the output voltage. So you got positive, negative, positive, negative. This one right here, the negative of the output, gets position 1 of the switch, like I said earlier. This gets the laser positive, which means the red wire from the laser. This one gets the ground source, which is the ground of the barrel jack. And this gets the voltage source, which is the 12 volts from the barrel jack. And once again, you can then wire in the fan to this barrel jack here, and we'll do all that other good stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and attach these TTL wires to the MO1 board. And that's just going to be as simple as stripping the wire, tinning the wire, and then attaching it to the corresponding pins on the MO1 board. And so on this board, we have, like I said, this is TTL red here, and this is TTL black here. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it over and do it all on the back side. Get a little bit, retin this soldering tip, and just attach the red here. I'm sorry, did that backwards. Add the black on the left side. Okay, we got the black installed, and then TTL red will go on this side. Okay, there is that. There is that installed. So I'll quickly go over the wiring one last time. This middle one, this is going to go to switch position 2. This one is the ground of the input. This is me voltage source, where this is 12 volts. This is TTL red, and this is TTL black, so positive and ground. And here's the other side of the board again, just so you can see that. But these are all the main important connections that you need here. So I'll go ahead and set this off to the side for a moment. So now I'm going to bring in the switch components. And as we know, this is going to be the ground of the laser. So we'll take the thick gauged wire. And then okay, there's that attached. So this is, once again, this is just for the laser ground, which will then just get placed through the big hole of the container. Position 1, this gets a small wire, or we'll get some wire once again. So this, I have some bigger wire that's already tinned, but I'm going to have to ignore that. Strip it so we have a long piece that can go across again. It's going to go across position 1. And this is for when we want full power of the laser. So what you would do is you just flip it to that switch, and this is going to get connected to the ground of the DC to DC converter. Okay, there's that. Once again, this is going to get connected to the ground output, which is right here, the DC to DC converter. And then this middle pin right here, this is that wire that we attached earlier. This one right here that I'm flicking around, that is going to get connected to this pin set up right here, so I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm going ahead and I'm installing the MO1 board into the control box. I'm just using a small 6mm M3 screw to attach it, and that is just screwing through the MOSFET hole and then into the plastic container. Okay, and that is nice and snug. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and weave the TTL wiring through the small hole, which is right here below the barrel jack. So as you can see, I now have the TTL wires coming through from there. So we have to put this Zener diode in parallel with the power output, or the output of this. So the way that we'll do that is bending it over like such, and we will just put it across this. The black side of the Zener diode here is going to go to the voltage out on this side. So it's just going to go across like such. So I have the Zener diode right here. And then next we'll go ahead and just take this wire here. That gets connected to the ground side of the output, so we'll just go ahead and tighten that down. This you'll need a smaller flathead for, and you'll just tighten that until it's tight, and now we have that installed. Next, on the positive side, we will put the laser positive, and now we will take this and install the red wire. Push that in like such and tighten it. So as you can see, red, black, Zener diode, black side of the Zener diode is on the ground side. And then once again, just tighten it with the flathead. I'm gonna go ahead and cut 2 wires, red and black, or I'll take some fan wires, red and black, and those are gonna get attached in. So we have red on the far side. Now those are all installed. Go ahead. I have to bend up those wires a little bit. I have to give it some persuasion. And you just push it right in. can see, I have my DC to DC converter now placed in the box. These two red wires, or the two laser wires, the red and the black, and just feed them through the hole. Okay, so now we have the fun thing. We now have to take, so we have these free wires, these wires, and these wires that are all just hanging free right now. These all need to be connected to that barrel jack. So the center one's gonna be positive, negative. Tin that from here, and then I will be back once I have it all soldered. Okay, so there is everything all soldered up. So now the next step we're going to do is we're going to test the output voltage of the DC to DC converter. So we should be having it set at around, what did they say, around 5.1 volts, between 5 and 5.1. Anything more will kill the laser. So we just have to make sure that we set that correctly. So we'll go ahead and get that all plugged in, and I'll be back. Well, first let me show you. So if you look down here, we have these two potentiometers. The left one is for the voltage and the right one is for the current. So you'll go ahead and just twist that left or right until you get it down to the 5.1 volts, and then we'll go ahead and test everything.